The first Honda Insight resembled a CRX that had, a trip to the wind tunnel.
It looked like a teardrop. Yeah, and it
had wheel spats.
The closest continuation of that car was actually the CRZ, which we actually liked.
But I see them every so often.
Small little teardrop two-door.
They really appeal to hypermiles. Yep. But then the second generation came out, and it seemed like Honda was trying to do the Prius thing.
Very much so.
It was the 5-door, it was the
yep.
boxy, hatchy, but not really compelling, and then they killed it in 2014.
Well, it had styling, kind of like the Prius styling, which is, why is that car different styling? I mean, that's what the Prius
has
always
been. It's from the future.
It's always been styled in a way to suggest it's a different car than everything else.
Hey, look, everybody, it had drum brakes in the rear.
This is just a car that is like the second-gen Volt. This is the Honda Volt. Like the second-gen Volt, it is a car that, unless you know what it is, you have no idea that it's different.
Very true.
You're watching Everyday Driver. We make a TV show, podcast,
and YouTube channels dedicated to great cars, driving adventures, and helping you find a car you'll love.
subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing.
Okay, so here we are in the third gen. It's the 2019 Insight.
Brand new.
The Insight has been away off the market for 5 years. They've been working on it, rethinking it, and here it is, looking like a Civic, because that's kind of what it is.
It's on the Civic platform. It's a little bit stretched Civic platform.
It's a little bit longer, and
kind of conservative in its styling by comparison to the Civic. If you looked at the Civic and been like, what happened there? The Insight is for you, yeah.
I'm thinking that the feel of this car is as big as Accords used to be. I'm talking 90s back in the day. This feels kind of like an Accord, and that's how big the Civic is now.
This almost looks like the current Accord, styling-wise. And it's interesting you say that, because what year was your Accord? You had an Accord.
I had a 92. Well, I had an 86, the DX,
but
the
your
base,
green one,
super base.
Green one was a
the green one.
I think it's every bit as big as the early 90s Accord you had. For sure it is.
All right, so here we are, the Insight. Definitely designed to compete against the Prius.
Completely.
Definitely appealing to hyper-milers, and it gets about the same fuel economy, but it does things a little bit differently than the Prius does.
Yeah, it's the Honda Volt. We're in, and I say that as a guy that genuinely likes the Volt and its technology. This is the Honda Volt. The Prius is what's called a parallel hybrid.
Yes,
the electric motor and the gas motor work in conjunction to power the car. This and the Volt are what's called a series hybrid. The electric motor technically is what's driving the wheels, and the gasoline motor is on board primarily to be a generator to burn gas to create electricity. That's primarily how I'm simplifying.
Although,
that's primarily how this works.
Interestingly, the engine is connected to the drive wheels through an eCVT. So it has a CVT,
it has a lockout clutch.
It's going through this clutch to put power down, like on an uphill, like we're doing right now, and the engine has no tack. I keep looking for the tack down here because I'm so used to engine noise correlating with speed of the car.
Completely.
And I've had to detach these realities.
In the same way the engine is detached, by the way. It's detached in the exact same way. They do not relate at all.
I'm trying to get up the hill here. The engine is screaming, and I have no idea how fast is the engine turning.
No idea.
I suppose it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
But for a combined output, engine plus electric motor, 151 stout horsepower, it's doing fine. Just you're going to have to deal with noise. And see, we're going the same speed, and then the engine drops off like way back down, back on batteries, and we're still going the same speed. It's a very strange sensation.
It is a very atypical sensation. It's completely counterintuitive. You're right. What we think of subconsciously when the engine is screaming,
like the engine is detached from the wheels.
When the engine is screaming, you think it's because your foot is most of the way to the floor. That actually doesn't relate in this car. The other morning, I took my son to school, and because it was cold, as soon as I started the car, it was right around freezing. As soon as I started the car, the engine burst to life. And ran for a while to heat everything up. I was trundling along through a neighborhood. I was doing the school run. I was barely using the gas pedal, but the engine's going because it was just heating. And as soon as it heated it up, it completely went silent. It turned off. It doesn't have anything to do with where your foot is on the gas.
Yeah. Well, on hills like this, the engine's going to be kicking it a lot.
Yeah.
And it's there to assist. It's there to get, of course, good gas mileage. It's a 1.5 liter engine. It runs on the Atkinson cycle, and so that is. It leaves the intake valves open just a little bit longer past bottom dead center for efficiency purposes.
Same thing, same way the Prius engine runs.
Yes,
a lot
very
of
true.
efficient engines run exactly that way.
Very true.
Yep.
I'm not loving the engine noise right now. Even though on any uphill, your engine's going to be screaming at you, but it's not a pretty engine note until you turn sport mode. And the engine note changes.
A little bit,
Listen to
because
that.
they put a little higher. It is a little less drony.
The instrument panel is now, surrounded in red graphics as
you
to
are
tell
no
me,
longer
ooh,
you're no longer growing back trees.
I'm not.
You've gone into
the tree has gone away. Actually,
the
on
red
the
mist
panel.
has descended on the instrument panel, and you're now actually going uphill.
It's like a video game.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, that noise is loud. It is
loud.
pretty.
It is loud. But
it's like a weed whacker, just
but
constantly.
we're doing nearly 3,000 feet of elevation gain over the course of this hill. This is a fairly steep hill on I-80 near where we are. We're based in Park City, Utah. So this is a fairly steep hill, but on the backside, you'll be able to crank up your regen. By the way, least intuitive thing ever. Your paddles on your steering wheel set up plus or minus regen braking.
So you've got medium, then there we go. So
That's
now
full regen. You went down to
full. So
full
it's still plus and minus, and you think,
Yes.
oh, there's some sort of sporty character to this car.
No, that's about the regen.
Not so
you
much.
can crank up the level of regen by using the paddle. That's not intuitive, but they exist, and so they put them on to do that.
Still going the same speed. The engine note has completely died away,
and now
There's
you're
been
charging.
No upshifts.
Now you're going to start charging because you're downhill with
the
regen
trees are going to
braking
grow
on.
again somewhere in the instrument panel.
Yes,
I hope so.
Do you want to tell about what happens when you turn this car off?
Oh yes, it does give you a score. It's kind of like a high green score when you.
Your leaf meter. Yeah, your leaf meter comes on and says here how economical you were.
Because Nissan, it can't be a leaf. Ooh,
okay,
Panamera.
It's the leaf meter.
Hey, look at that.
That tells you where we are. That we noticed the Panamera that gets on the freeway beside us while we're driving this car.
Panamera S. Love it.
But honestly, though, the thing about
going
this
back
is,
to Econ.
Sure, why not?
Hey, there we go.
You can hit full EV mode. This car will run on full EV for a mile or so. It doesn't really want to, but again, this is driving a Honda generator. Honestly, it has
Honda stuck one of their generators
an efficient motor that is designed to create electricity, and the electricity is driving the car. You don't plug this in.
Yeah.
It is a hybrid. It is also, by the way, loaded out like all press cars are. It's loaded to the gills.
This is the Touring.
It is just under $30,000 new, which I have to say is a lot of car for the money. That's a lot of car for the money.
It is, except we're now in Prius Prime territory, a car that you can plug in.
Fine, but
just saying.
But I think
if we're spending that kind of money.
Yes, but I think when you buy this car, I was trying to think about who's this car for. Okay, and I agree with you. I think people that drive a lot, it's great for that.
It's
but
long distance.
But even if you commute a lot, I think if you sit in a stop-and-go city, this is a great choice there too. Because this is rated at about 50 miles to the gallon, which is right around the range that the Prius is getting. It's technically rated at 55. I always think those are a little bit high. So let's just say 50
There's
miles
always
to the
some
gallon.
fudging and tweaking, and hey, look at us.
And it also depends on how you drive. We are never going to get 50 miles a gallon, ever. Partially because of how we drive, which is always in sport
I just want
mode.
to see what she can do.
And
so
also because where we
economy.
live is like this, multi-thousand feet worth of elevation gain on a hill, which is terrible for gas mileage. In the time we've had it, we've averaged 35 miles to the gallon. That tells me for sure you could get 50 if you are commuting in a flat city.
All right, so I just did my thing, and by that I mean the regen braking. You can actually control your speed a little bit with the paddles. Yeah. I noted to Todd when we were first starting to drive the car, if you wait as if you're late braking into a turn, like you're on the racetrack, and you wait just a beat longer than that.
That racetrack braking.
The brakes obviously are going to have to work a lot harder, but you can actually fill up your battery. You can watch it move depending on how hard you brake. Yeah. So I've been waiting a beat and then back up. Yeah. There it is, full again. I get battery power, which we're back on right now. So we're moving slowly. We're about to switch off drivers here, and we're back on battery power.
You have two fuel meters on this, if you can.
Yes.
The left side of the gauge cluster is your battery. The right side is your actual fuel. They go on opposite sides.
They don't operate independently, especially the left power here. It actually moves into the charge zone or into the power zone, which means the engine's running. You can see, it's kind of like a tack. You can see at what level is this running.
How much the engine's angry. It's the engine anger meter. It's really not anything else.
I've had it pegged most of the trip.
Of course you have.
The battery is obviously not quite as large as the one in the Clarity because Clarity obviously has a different purpose. Thank goodness this car looks nothing like the Clarity. It's normal looking.
It's just a car. In fact, I want to say something about that once I wind up there.
Okay.
So my parents were just in town, okay? And look,
all right.
I'm sure whoever your parents are, you love your parents, and then they have the quirky things where you realize this is why I moved out. But my parents were just in town, and
I love their musical tastes.
You're
going to be watching this. I'm enjoying that.
Yeah, but so they were just in town, and we were talking, of course, unsurprisingly, we were talking about cars. And I drove them around in this, and my dad asked, I think, to his credit, the most pertinent question. Okay. Honestly.
All right.
This or a Prius?
Oh, sure.
That's the question he asked.
Sure.
And my honest response on that, because I think that is kind of the question. If you're shopping for an affordable, usable, real car that gets good gas mileage, you're instantly going to have the Prius on your list. You just are.
Sure.
Okay? Because it is the king of that.
Sure.
But
sure.
The Prius has just, whether the driver that owns it is this or not, the Prius has a mystique that is, I've got a point to prove. It just has that still. There are people that drive it that just drive it for gas mileage. There are people that drive it that are trying still to make a statement about how they are better and greener and I have the only worthwhile car.
Sure.
The Prius maintains that. This has none of that. This is just car.
I can see that. I think the Prius has been unassailable for a lot of years because of it's gotten the best mileage ever.
Sport
and then
mode.
The people who are driving it know how to eke even more miles to gallon out of that, and they're claiming the best. These two cars are rated nearly identically on the MPG, on the actual federal fuel economy rating. They're rated nearly identically. And so now that really gives you a choice. You don't have to go Prius, and styling alone, I'd go this because it looks like a normal car, feels like it, and for the most part, drives like a normal car, which I like.
Absolutely does.
It also looks like it.
That's the thing. This is a car that is invisible to everybody. It has hybrid badges on it, but it's just, honestly, it looks like an Accord. It looks almost identical to an Accord, and I think when I first saw you drive it up to my house, I thought you were in an Accord. And because this is between the two, right between this, it's on the Civic platform, but in size, it's actually right between the Civic and the Accord with a styling. You can absolutely mistake this for an Accord. You don't know what it is. It's a few $1,000s more than the Civic. I think it is better looking than the Civic. Let me rephrase. Well, it is less polarizing than the Civic.
Sure. It depends on the trim level for the Civic.
You can love the Civic styling. I like it in some setups, but I think a lot of people don't like it. And people that are shopping for a car that's going to do the commute thing and get decent gas mileage are probably going to be turned off by the Civic styling. No problem here. Very normal looking. Yeah, I mean that in a good way. All your tech is here. Look, Apple CarPlay. And the only thing I have to say, I'm also picky, and your results will vary. I don't like these seats. Personally,
I want to touch on that. Since we're moving to interior, good news, everybody. That flat spot that I have proposed car manufacturers make for your phone exists in the Insight. They've actually done it. It fits your phone. You don't have to, hold it vertically in a slot. It doesn't go somewhere down here. And I think that's okay, because if there isn't, we're still going to be looking at our phones anyway. We're still going to be diving for them and using them anyway, which I don't recommend, I don't like. But if it's here, it's like a little bit of comfort. It's my phone.
I know where it is.
Exactly.
It's right there.
It's right here next to me. I don't have to look at it. And if you get Apple CarPlay, then you'll have, the text messages scroll across your screen anyway. They've done it. It's a flat spot. You can put a drink here. You wouldn't want to because you've got two drink holders back here, but it's a flat spot, clearly designed for phones. So now cars are truly being designed around modern technology we carry in our pockets.
It's the security blanket. We're all going to have our phone.
Have you noticed they've integrated the Honda shift pattern, the buttons, essentially, which actually fit very well in this car.
It makes sense in this car.
Others, they don't as much,
but
even
this
though
is their thing now, and it does work well.
It works great.
It does work well.
And so the interior is clean, it's simple. From a design perspective, I'm interested in it, but it's not offensive. There's not lines that kind of make me think, this is so deliberately from the future, I don't know what to do. But there's a lot of rear seat space. The trunk is huge.
I'll go
it's
you
a
one better.
Normal car.
This is technically a mid-size car, but I would argue it has what we would expect a full-size car to have in space. I took my parents on the airport run in this car. They had two big hard-side suitcases. They both fit side by side in the trunk of this car.
Seriously.
My mom in the back, she had plenty of room. So all of that works very well. Also, back to commuting. I'm going to go with my cruise control here. I have all of the buttons. Turn everything on. Turn everything on.
Car, so we're braking right now.
We're braking like crazy. I'm not claiming this is an autonomous driving situation, but I am. Look at me, still on the hands. Sorry. If you turn on the automatic cruise control where it senses the car in front of you and you turn it to keep me as far back as possible, I'm like 2 blocks back from the next car.
Yeah, not going to work.
If you
for
put it on
big cities.
the closest setting, it's still too close for Atlanta or Houston or LA, where you're going to put that space in there and 4 cars are going to jump in the middle of you. None of these systems are close enough for those cities, but you can see how close I am to the car in front of me now. That's as close as the system will allow. I also have the lane departure system on right now, which I've used at length to just test it out.
You spent some time on the freeway.
This is not an autonomous car.
No.
I'm going to say it again. The Honda Insight is not an autonomous car.
Pretending.
It will stay within its lane, but it ping-pongs a bit. It finds a lane marker, and then it finds a lane marker. It doesn't do it. It doesn't do this, but it's slowly doing the ping-pong.
You will be pulled over if you're doing that down the road.
If you do it too fast, it's not going to be so fast you get pulled over. It's not going to be what are you drinking. Well, the car was helping.
No, it's the car officer.
Yeah, exactly. The reason I bring it up is because if you are doing that stop and go thing, we have people writing on the podcast all the time. I want automatic cruise control. I want it to sense and be able to brake to a stop. I want it to stay within lanes, because they're sitting there doing the drone commuter thing with their cup of coffee and one eye open.
But they have their phone to look at right
here. That helps for this. Well, because of Android Auto.
Yeah, true.
That helps for this, for sure. And it does all of those things. Plus, look, sunroof. I mean, this is
the oven door.
This is a do-everything car. It really is. It's not an enthusiast car.
It's back to what you know about cars with the, I'll say, the newest technology to get the most fuel economy and still make your little heart feel better that it's a real car. You can drive it wherever. You fill it with gas. There's still that security blanket laid over the top of the car.
The infrastructure is easy.
That it's okay to drive this like a normal car.
Completely.
But then when you're out on the road, you're just cruising. That's all it's designed to do, and it feels great.
Yeah.
The thing about seats, and you wanted to touch on this, I think that's something that every car manufacturer who invests in the high mileage car forgets about. They don't equate high mileage to somebody's going to be sitting here for a long time.
Fair.
I would have liked to see all of the ergonomics go into just the driver's seat. These seats are fine.
Yeah.
You're not usually going to be taking passengers, maybe unless you're carpooling, but still, all of the tech should have gone into that seat. It's missing inflatable lumbar support.
It is, yeah.
Now, we're at $28,000, which is, priced about right for this car.
I think it's a great price.
They have to save money somewhere, but lumbar support. I mean, the seats are fine. I think they're kind of on the Mazda level as far as they're great. I like them.
I'm not surprised.
Missing the lumbar support.
Yes, I think I'm not surprised you like them more than me. You and I disagree with seats often. See, look, they tried to automatically brake them there.
I have a story about that, by the way.
Yeah, but I mean, look, please don't get me wrong. I think I've sat in all the seats of this car for a little bit of time. They are good. They're not standouts. They're fine as seats. And it's going to depend on you as a person and how you fit in the car, because everybody fits in the car a little bit differently. I wish they were better, but I can't get over everything that's in this car for the price is a very viable car. And as I was talking again with my parents, I just thought this should be their next car. And the kind of driving they do, they're not car enthusiasts, but they need something that runs well, that gets good gas mileage, and does everything they need to do in their life as retired people.
And the price.
It's perfectly good for them. It'd be great for them. And one of their big concerns with their current cars, they don't have big cars, but one of their concerns with their current cars is they wish the gas mileage was better. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Here.
Honestly. It's great in that regard. It isn't fun to drive, but it's not supposed to be.
No.
It just needs to drive, and it helps you drive. I think this is a real success in this market.
I could also see this car being used by moms and dads who commute, they work, and they keep it for a long time. And then this is also handed down to number one daughter or number one son who starts to drive.
Possibly, yeah.
The performance is not in the category of, ooh, that's going to get away from you. Ooh.
Yeah, you're right.
And I'll bet you insurance for a new driver would probably be pretty friendly for this car for years from now. So that justifies not just leasing this, but keeping it for a long time.
I can see it.
Putting the miles on this thing. You just got off right here, and where the white lines, at least in the US, the white lines intersect. You come off the road and then they kind of peel off. The car freaked out and slammed on the brakes for me, which was a delight.
That's a delight, yes.
Oh, and it thought that the
lost your
line was
mind?
creeping in, and then it broke away, and it wasn't sure what to do. So the system isn't perfect.
Of course
obviously, it's not designed to be, but I didn't like how it jerked the steering wheel back and hit the brakes, because that upset the car. It's like, I got it here. Thank you, car.
All of its auto-driving features are new driver abrupt.
Yeah.
But that's not a Honda thing. That's not uncommon in this.
Very fair. Yeah. But commuter, it's a real car, and I think it's impressed you and I more than when we came in. You can't just hit the sport button and be like, great. This is an awesome car to drive.
If you're shopping a commute car, if you've ever looked at a Prius, you need to drive the Honda Insight.
Sure.
Hands down.